may be established amongst us all. Amen.
Amen.
Manningham City Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri people as the traditional custodians of the land we now know as Manningham. We pay our respects to Wurundjeri elders past and present and value the ongoing contribution to the cultural heritage of Manningham. I'd like to welcome all the members of the public here tonight to this council meeting who have come along to observe proceedings. I'd just like to advise you that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event that your voice and or image is broadcast. Manningham Council would also like to acknowledge the contribution made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. All council meetings are controlled by a meeting procedure local law. I'll introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda by calling it by number and by reading the title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder of the motion on an item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendation in the report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. I'd like to draw your attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, which is public question time. This provides people with an opportunity to ask questions of the council. Questions must be registered prior to the commencement of the meeting to be asked. If we do not have the information at hand to provide a meaningful response, the question may be taken on notice and a response provided in writing. I would also stress that I will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any one issue. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these additional questions in writing to council through the normal channels. Item 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. There are no apologies. Item 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. There are no conflicts of interest. Item 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover for the motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on 22nd of May 2018 be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Galbally. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Zafiropoulos. I'll put that motion, those for, and carried. Item 5, presentations. This is a great opportunity to acknowledge the following Manningham residents who were recipients of awards in the 2018 Queen's Birthday Honours List. We have Mr Peter Terence Kempen, Honorary Member AM in the General Division for his significant service to the community through executive roles with a range of health organisations to education and to the accountancy profession. Mr Jeffrey Kang-hee Tan, Medal OAM in the General Division for his service to the community through charitable organisations. Ms Valerie Brenda Polly, Honorary Medal OAM in the General Division for her service to the community of Warrandyte. Ms Denise Catherine McLaughlin, Public Service Medal for her outstanding public service to the delivery of child protection services in Victoria. And I understand that Brother Sean Keefe is in the house, and I understand you have a presentation, Brother Sean.
What I'm here to do is just give you some money. This is from the raffle from this year. It's the council gave us a grant of $15,000. From that, we were able to generate $32,000, give back to the community $27,000. There's a check in there for over $8,000 for the Charitable Trust.
Thank you very much, Brother Sean.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll give that to the CEO just for the record. Petitions, item 6.1, petition car parking at Doncaster Tennis Club, Koonung Ward. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
I move that the petition with 294 signatories relating to car parking issues at the Doncaster Tennis Club be received and referred through the appropriate officer for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chen. Do I move the motion on that? Do I move? I'll move that. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed. There's a petition for a request for parking restrictions at 70, 72, 74 and 76 Council Street, Doncaster, Koonung Ward. Do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Chen.
Stand up.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the petition with 4 signatures requesting 2-hour parking restrictions in front of the property numbers 70, 72, 74, and 76 Council Street, Doncaster, to be received and referred through the appropriate officer for consideration.
Thank you.
This is the petition.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Zafiropoulos. I'll put that to the floor. Those in favour? And carried. 6.3, open space facilities for local residents and sporting clubs, Heidi Ward. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Piccinini.
Mayor, I move that the petition with 292 signatories requesting Council to urgently lobby the State Government and the North East Link Authority to secure sports and open space facilities for local residents and sporting clubs before any existing facilities are displaced by North East Link be received and referred through to the appropriate officer for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Piccinini. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. I'll put that to the floor. Those in favour? And carried. Item 7, public question time. We have received 2 questions from Frank Freschke. Mr. Freschke, would you like to come forward to the microphone, please? You'll have 2 minutes to make a brief introductory statement before asking your question.
Sure. Thank you very much for this opportunity. On behalf of the Vanuatu Club of 191 Bulleen Road, I wish to raise an ongoing and growing concern for your attention. In light of the Council's existing severe shortages of soccer fields within Manningham and previous advocacy in support in principle, but also to minimise any negative impacts on the North East Link project, is the Council, 1, aware of the opportunities for local soccer clubs to take ownership of and access land as possible as part of the Yarra Valley Country Club redevelopment proposal that's offered, and 2, agile in its ongoing to several state government departments, including Department of Environment, Water, Land and Planning, North East Link Authority and others to take advantage of the opportunities that addresses Manningham's shortfall in sporting activities and facilities. Our concern is to hear from the Council on progress it has made to date, as the window of time for addressing this issue is rapidly closing. Yours sincerely, Frank Freschke, Secretary of the Vanuatu Club, Melbourne.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank. I'll pass over to the CEO to respond.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Freschke. The Council's current recreation strategy has, as you've already stated, identified that we have a general shortage of soccer facilities both within the municipality but also within the eastern region. Our understanding at this stage is that the existing football oval at Bulleen Park, oval number 1 used by the Yarra Junior Football Club and as a soccer training pitch, is the only sporting facility that will need to be relocated to accommodate the NEL at this time. Council is working actively with the North East Link and other relevant state government agencies to address where and how to offset the impact of community sporting facilities as a result of the North East Link, and particularly to unlock sites for future development of soccer facilities. Council are aware of the Yarra Valley Country Club proposal and the government's current structure planning process, and will consider any and all opportunities for more sporting facilities as part of that potential development.
Okay. And would you be willing to comment at all on timeframes for these decisions? If you choose to make a decision, will you comment on how long we might hear from you?
We're working with Neela and others. It's how long is a piece of string in particular when it comes to the Yarra Valley Country Club. But we're actively working to ensure that the issues that we already know about in terms of that shortage of sporting fields is top of mind. There are other aspects of the developments that we're also trying to work with, but the time frame at the moment is quite blurry.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. It's just that by 2020 that'll be gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Freshy. Thank you for your questions. Item 8, admission of urgent business. There are no items of urgent business. Item 9, planning permit applications. 9.1, planning application PL 17/027356 at 16, 18 and 20 Teeley Street, Doncaster, for the construction of 14 three-storey dwellings over a basement level. Do I have a mover for a motion or an alternate motion? Councillor Haynes.
Mr Mayor, I move that the councillor's alternate motion be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chen. Councillor Haynes.
Mr Mayor and councillors, the initial decision from the officers is to grant a permit. This alternate motion also does that, but it adds a few changes, a very minor one at 1.32, the retention of the trees at the front of the site of number 16 Teeley Street, which is 2 trees numbered 29 and 32 from the arborist report. They're within the front setback of the development because it's a 6 metre setback, so they're not, doing this isn't going to alter the actual plan and isn't going to alter the development whatsoever. And as this is across 3 sites and there are over 30 trees being taken down, this is the only opportunity to be able to try and save these 2 trees and have the people that are worried about being overlooking within their bedrooms over the road to be altered. And also there was discussion at submitters meetings regarding the possible overlooking of windows that overlook number 14 Teeley Street, and it is already within the conditions that there are no habitable windows on the new development, so there is not going to be any overlooking. So for that, and also there's possible rooftop gardens that also have conditions to make certain that they don't overlook. So if you could please, councillors, support this alternative recommendation, I'd be grateful.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Councillor Chen.
Yes, Councillor Haynes has said it all. And on a side note, and I understand that Council currently does not have any tree overlay on private land, and the only exception probably just about environmental significance overlay or vegetation protection overlay. And although Council endeavours to plant more street trees, but we know that street trees is different from trees on private land, because trees on private land provide shades to our dwellings and enhance our amenity. But on the contrary, street trees are not able to provide such benefits. So I support retaining mature trees, and actually the more the merrier. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Any speakers against? There being no more speakers, I'll put that motion. Those for, and carried. 9.2, planning application PL 17/027830 at 152 Andersons Creek Road, East Doncaster, for the construction of 58 dwellings, townhouses. Do I have a mover for an alternate motion or the original motion? Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the councillor's alternate motion be adopted.
Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Councillor Galbally. Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this is a very substantial development. It's a site of some 12,670 square metres, so it's 10.2 plus hectares, and it's one of the last remaining substantial development sites within the Pines Activity Centre. It's all zone residential, it's zone residential growth zone 2, and that particular activity centre structure plan was put in place in 2012, as I recall, and that designated this particular site should have a preferred height, which is not a maximum, but it is a preferred height of 11 metres. Having a site this extensive really provides some amazing development opportunity. It is a substantial change for the area, and whilst I wouldn't actually be, if I was given an opportunity to review this structure plan and change the heights and change the form in this precinct, I would. I've argued against many of the developments in this particular location, but I haven't been particularly successful. But when it comes to this particular proposal, we're not being presented with a 7 or 8 or 9 storey apartment block. And believe me, we could be presented with some of that, because it's my reading of this planning scheme that you could actually put an apartment building on part of this block. It would be a bit of a challenge, but you could. But the developer hasn't chosen not to do that. They've chosen to go ahead with a townhouse style development. There's 58 dwellings being proposed and an internal roadway of quite some length to circulate within the site. They've managed to structure that roadway so that it forms a break between the various blocks of building that are proposed. It is not an easy site to work on. There's something like a 15 plus metre fall in this site from the south-west corner to the north-east corner, a 15.5 metre fall, very substantial. But what I'm proposing in my alternate, councillors, is based on discussions that were had at the submitters meeting last week, some concerns raised by the residents that adjoin this particular development, and there are some 5 properties across the rear of this particular development. They all face onto Ridley Court, and they're severely impacted by this change to their circumstance, because their view at the moment is of a fairly open 3-acre site, and what they're going to see in future is a large collection of townhouses. It's a substantial change, but the council has determined back in 2012 that substantial change must happen around our shopping centre activity centres. That's what we've chosen. That's the location for key substantial development, because by doing that, the back streets were protected from substantial development. But what I'm proposing in this alternate, councillors, is that one key aspect of the development change, and that's to do with the loop road that circles along the back of the property. So this alternate changes the officer's recommendation and requires that the loop road instead be built along the rear boundary, some 2 metres setback from that rear boundary, and the 4 large townhouses that are along that boundary get flipped onto the opposite side of the road. That's what the residents were looking for. It puts the internal roadway between them and their between the new buildings and their properties, and seeks to improve the privacy in their backyards to prevent overlooking from the proposed townhouses along that rear boundary, and will actually mitigate somewhat the change. It's no perfect solution, but it is a solution that I think still delivers the yield that the applicant has proposed within their plans, yet manages to try and navigate some of the impacts of the substantial change that this particular proposal will put forward. In the end, there are 8 different layouts. There are 58 dwellings of 3 or 4 bedrooms. It's quite a substantial change for the site, but it's the sort of change that we have to have within walking distance of our shopping centres, with good access to public transport, and creates a substantial residential hub around the growing and developing Pines Activity Centre in the heart of East Doncaster and Donvale. And I ask my fellow councillors to support the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Councillor Galbally?
Not much to add. I was at the submitters meeting too, and when it was mentioned about the this road sort of going towards the back of the property, which gives a bit bigger setback to the neighbours, I think there's a lot of pluses for that, and I'm hoping that the developer could sort of work their way around it, and I hope council supports it.
Thank you, Councillor Galbally. Any speakers against?
I just have a minor question.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
The trees that are along that boundary, is it possible to just request the developer to try and save some of those because there is a 2 metre landscape setback?
I'll defer to...
Through you, Mr Mayor. Look, I really couldn't answer that question in confidence because I'm not familiar with the trees in question.
I can make an observation.
Yep.
I discussed the matter with the officers at the time in the drafting of the alternate, and the trees along that boundary were set too far away from the fence line to permit it.
Thank you. So again, another question. Is the new landscape design with substantial trees within that landscape that to be planted? Is there a fairly good landscape design that puts trees back within that 2 metre setback?
Through you, Mr Mayor, there is a condition number 8 that requires a landscape plan, so we can ensure that there is adequate screening along that area.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Is there any other speakers against? There being no further speakers, I'll put that motion. Those for and carried. Thank you. 9.3, planning application PL 170276661 at 463 to 535 Doncaster Road, Doncaster, for the use and development of the land with a 2-storey restricted recreation facility health club. I'll just pause while people are exiting the room. Okay, so do I have a motion? Councillor Chen?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the alternative motion for refusal to be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. So that was alternate motion to be adopted. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Haynes, thank you. Councillor Chen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council has resolved to object this application in the May ordinary meeting. This alternative motion is to provide grounds for the refusal. The site is within Heritage Overlay 43 of the Manningham Planning Scheme. Heritage should be the key consideration in contemplating change. I congratulate the applicant to restore the historical homestead, noting that the clubhouse also part of the heritage listing. But by demolishing the clubhouse, it provides room for the applicant to build a health club with the size of 2,266 square meters that wraps around the homestead on the east, the south, and the north, and attached to the homestead on the southeast. This is unsympathetic to an appreciation of the 19th century building. There will be 4 tennis courts on the north. The fences and the floodlights further obscure the views of the homestead looking east and south from the Members Drive. Manningham Planning Scheme Amendment C101 requires visual connection between the homestead and the stable. This will be changed and interrupted by the eastern wing of the health club and the outdoor swimming pool that sits between the homestead and the stable. The location of and the size of the health club will obscure the visual view of the homestead from Doncaster East, from the Doncaster Road, which is one of our busiest main road. The visual impacts of the large modern health club to the heritage is substantial. We are kidding ourselves to believe that any adverse impacts to heritage could be addressed or resolved by some forms of treatment. No, they won't, unless a thorough reconsideration of the design and location. Council endeavors to promote tourism. We will make ourselves a laughingstock to advise tourists that they can only view the homestead from a particular location and at a particular angle, or to pretend there is no disturbance or obstacles in between when they drive or walk past Doncaster Road. Because this is unlikely to happen in any developed countries. There is no net community benefit. Aquarena is just less than 4 kilometers away from Tullamore, and there are already plenty of gyms and fitness facilities around Doncaster Hill area. Do we need another large health club at the expense of our heritage value? The 27 million health club has been marketed as a luxury health club, a unique selling point to attract property buyers. It might be out of reach to the ordinary mom and dad with children. What is the benefit of a luxury health club to our community if it only benefits to those who are able to afford the membership? The tennis court itself and the outdoor swimming pool are close to the current and future residential developments. They will affect the amenity of residents on the other side of Members Drive and Heritage Boulevard. Please look into the map, and then you can see how narrow the Members Drive and Heritage Boulevards are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Just for clarification, last council meeting, the officer's recommendation was not adopted. There wasn't a technical rejection of the application. So, Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And again, I rose to speak against the original, but I am supporting Councillor Chen's motion. A number of my reasons that have already been said, but I refer to the Lovell-Chen report that states, it is further recommended that an area, land to the south of the original and house extending to Doncaster Road, be included within the reduced heritage overlay to allow for a consideration of any impact on the closer views to the house from this main road. So when this was first put together in 2014, the heritage overlay was reduced to actually help assist in the development. And the heritage overlay that now exists is not being considered with the application. And Tullamore, the report from the expert witnesses state that Tullamore should be retained, restored and allowed to regain its former identity and prominence in terms of its visibility from Doncaster Road and from within the site as a reminder of the site's original use as a farm. I also would like to draw your attention to the panel and advisory committee report that said it's concerned with the repercussions of this and the future developments of Tullamore, and that the immediate area surrounding the building, particularly the area of existing building additions that could be demolished and a new built form could occur in very close proximity to the original building without regard to the impacts and the new works may have on the heritage significance of the original Tullamore building. And the panel findings and the report clearly stated why this heritage overlay, though it has been shrunk, is to be the size that it is, that considers the whole area around that, including from Doncaster Road, as we've seen in the maps, councillors. So without going over the whole thing again and again, it is clear and that this site does not, the application does not preserve the uses with any consideration of this heritage building. And councillors, I ask that this is the only opportunity to do the right thing, to actually refuse this application and tell them to go back to the drawing board and actually look after this heritage site for what it has been already shrunk down and intended.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Are there any speakers against the motion? Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I ask my fellow councillors to actually reverse the decision on this, to actually vote down this particular motion and to approve the development. And I foreshadow that if this particular motion is lost, I'll be moving an alternate motion to approve the application. As noted in the papers, there is an alternate recommendation that I have drafted, which are in the distributed papers this evening. And if this particular motion is lost, I'll be moving that particular motion that will actually put before council the basis for the officers to argue in support of many aspects of the development before VCAT or any other party should we end up in such a circumstance. And I'm doing that, councillors, because the same reasons that I made in my discussion about this particular matter at the last council meeting. In the end, what we have is an 18th century building that's wrapped up in a whole collection of 19th century additions. The 18th century building is relatively small. It's completely obscured by the 19th century additions. Those additions are proposed by the applicant to be demolished, and the heritage building that is from the 1800s will be re-exposed and restored. That is no small proposal from a developer to set about restoring such a building, and what will be exposed to the public are the key aspects of the building, which is the northwest and the, now let me get this right, the westerly aspects of the building, because on the southwest and northwest sides of the building, that's where the wonderful verandas will be restored, that's where the views of that building will come about. In the end, this is private land. We don't get to repurpose private land for public enjoyment. That's not the way council works. Private developers have an opportunity to develop their land. Every landowner of our city who is a private landowner has the legal right to develop their property in accordance with the planning scheme. We all have that, councillors. This developer is no different. It is not the position of council to constrain a private developer to the reasonable development of the land in accordance with the planning scheme. What is proposed in this application, in my view, is reasonable development. Juxtaposing a modern building to a heritage building happens constantly in this country. Walk through the city of Melbourne, look at the restored heritage buildings. Most of the restored heritage buildings exist in the condition they do today because developers have been able to afford to conserve and restore them by building new buildings above and around and behind them. That's what this developer's proposing, and I ask you to refuse this motion, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Are there any speakers for the motion? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I rise to speak in favour of this particular motion because I think it really does need to go back down to the planning board again to get a different plan up here for this. It is about heritage, and it's all about talking about, and the heritage thing talks about the prominence of this building on the site. And it was that the promise of this site being prominent on the new development that carried favour, though the people objected to the whole development in the beginning, that people said, yes, if this building is going to be prominent up there, we will agree with it. And that's what we went through with council, with public consultation and everything else. And where is council saying, yes, people of the community of Melbourne opposing this particular development, up here we have an area, and that area up here, this building is going to remain, and that is going to be there, and we might add a couple of extra things along, and we're going to make it our clubhouse. Those were the discussions. And those are the promises that this council made to the Manningham community. Now, I'm not upset about the fact that they're building other buildings up here. But what I am upset about is the very fact that is no longer, whatever they do to that building, make it prominent. And please, councillors, look at page 185 of your documents. It's only metres away, these fences, from this historic bit. And by the way, those fences metres away are the areas that they said should remain open to the public. It's that area going onto the front there that should remain visible for everybody. But in this development, we have got tennis courts, probably higher than that, so the building, the ground level is going to be lower, because underneath those tennis courts, I believe, there's a whole lot of car parks and everything else. That's fine on the site. I don't have any problems with that. But the prominence of this building is buried within the brand new. And we've been given some photos of Doncaster Road. Well, I defy anyone to go along Doncaster Road and really see that, because as you're driving up Doncaster Road, by the way, when you're going up there, you don't really see the place at all, and it hasn't been hidden. I'm not upset about that either. But what we've got here is a situation that we have built a brand new building that is so massive in comparison to this building all around it. Now, we talked about 18th century buildings. I don't think anything was built in the 18th century there, but it certainly was built in the 19th century. And yes, there have been additions in the 20th century. Now, sorry, I did no.
Yeah, we knew what he was saying when he...
Did you? Oh, right. Well, I just wanted to correct 18th century. Anyway.
Sorry, just for order. Thank you. Councillor Goff.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Now, the interesting thing is that, now I've lost my train of thought, and that might have been deliberate there, that's okay.
That worked.
But it did. But anyway, look, councillors, that development is huge in comparison to what we've got as the heritage site, and the prominence, it talks about the prominence of the building on the site. And this building is no longer prominent on that site. But I do believe things can be changed, and I believe that those two tennis courts, the ones that are right next to the building, should be removed if anything would go through here, because that would give a clear sight up to that building. Those two tennis courts should be.
Time. Would you like an extension?
Extension, if that's all right. No one wants me to speak.
Moved by Councillor Zafiropoulos, seconded by Councillor Haynes. All those in favour? And carried. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I do believe that people have rights to build on their own private land, yes,
Yep.
and they have the right to build what they want on their land within constraints of other things. And one of them are overlays that talk about the prominence of the building on the site. And the second thing is basically they are able to do so with confidence of putting that on. But when the history of the site comes through and the whole ground proposal of this whole redevelopment of a huge area and all the promises that were made to the community beforehand just being overturned really quickly by something that swallows up that building. It actually swallows it. You might see a couple of chimneys poking out the top if you're lucky. And yes, there is a view through the car park at the back there that you see on that page, where if you're standing in the car park, which I don't know in the future whether it will or won't have access from Doncaster Road, but it doesn't address those important things for the community. And so it's because of that, it is already off at VCAT, it is there now, and I believe that we can actually negotiate a far better outcome than what is going to be proposed in the other proposal, a far better outcome if we go harder and say, listen, those views from that south need to be there. And, I think it is misleading of a developer, and it is extremely misleading of a council telling a community that it is going to remain there and it is going to be visible, especially from the roundabout, and I can take the swimming pool, I'm happy with that, and around that area, to see that particular building, to have it stand out. And in these proposals, it doesn't, and therefore I believe that we should support this motion for refusal, and it certainly will be worked out at the other place, but I do believe that we have a chance to get something much better here.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Are there any speakers against? Councillor Gubley.
Yes, I'd like to speak against the refusal. I hear them councillors referring to this building as a heritage homestead. The fact is that you look at it, it hasn't been a homestead for quite a while, and you cannot recognise it as such. I actually drove past it on the way again tonight, and basically all you can see is the two chimneys from the original homestead. So this is one fantastic opportunity where this place will become the homestead it was originally meant to be, and it will be done in the proper fashion. It will be the heritage Tullamore homestead that you're referring to, yet it looks nothing like what you're referring to tonight. It's been sitting there for such a long time under the golf club ownership, and no one has ever mentioned what has ever happened to this homestead. Now all of a sudden we're worried about this homestead.
Point of order, I don't think that that's true.
Okay.
It's not a point of order.
Not. You can refute.
I mean,
Let's,
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor
It
Haynes.
has been
Councillor
altered-
Galbally, back to
It
you.
has been altered so many times and added on, and
Yeah, Councillor
on the
Haynes.
external, you cannot visually see it as a homestead, and when you see the befores and the soon-to-be, if it is passed, building, it will look like the homestead it should be. And I didn't like hearing the fact that we might be a laughing stock because, and to sort of view it in the sense that because it'll be a private gymnasium and whatever the usage of the development is, it's not for us to judge what the uses are going to be in this private development. And I don't think we should be expressing those sort of aspects of this development. And it seems to be the only reason for refusal seems to be on heritage grounds and on this one building that really, drive past it tonight, does it really look like a heritage building at the moment? You've got the chimneys and that's what you've got. And in the future, if we do get to the alternate, you'll see that we could find a way that we could get a bit more visual impact and viewing from the street. It was never designed to be viewed from Doncaster Road. So, the fact that this is suddenly the big item on this agenda, it's like it's been made up. Is it because we're always in cars these
Sorry,
days?
Councillor, that's time.
That things have to be viewed from the street. I don't think so, but it will be. And I close. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any speakers for the motion? Councillor Chen, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, fellow councillors. And I hear you. And I have to say that the appropriate development could occur within this area, but any proposal needs to comply with the guidelines and objectives of heritage overlay, as simple as that. Unfortunately, the scale and intensity of the proposal is such that it is inconsistent with the development plan prescribed under clause. I can give you the clause, and we can all go back and look at the clause 2273 that requires the homestead is visually prominent. The homestead and the stable be visually connected. Prominent means, in the dictionary, standing out, easily seen. I could not see the proposal achieve that. It dominates and dwarfs the homestead. It is obvious that it does not pay enough attention to respect the significant element of the site. The overall development adversely affects the setting and cultural significance of the place. It makes drastic changes to the outlook from and to the homestead. Our heritage buildings deserve respect. I plead with our fellow councillors not to make any concession to any proposal that does not comply with our heritage guidelines and policy. Council needs to uphold the integrity of our planning scheme, just like our Councillor McLeish just mentioned that we have to comply with planning scheme. So we need to comply. The compliance is so significant that any small changes or conditions on the planning permits will not overcome the problems. I ask my fellow councillors support and think carefully about this application. So we need to reject this application in its current form. So the applicant could go back and come and think about it, redesign, redraft, and come back to council with a decent, modest, and respectable design. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. I'll put that in motion. Those in favour? That's 4. Those against? That's not carried. Is there any other further motions
Mr Mayor,
in regard to this item?
I'd like to move that the council alternate motion number 1 be put.
Councillor McLeish, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that alternate 1 motion? Thank you, Councillor Galbally. Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, the alternate motion that I'm putting is a variation on the recommendation of the officer's report that we saw at the last meeting. In moving that amendment, that alternate motion, I have, through various discussions with officers, sought to mitigate some aspects of the development. That mitigation is in the form of some changes to the design by taking the western end of the building and moving it back by 1.5 metres from the western boundary. This will open up and improve views of the site from Doncaster Road. I've sought to constrain the nature of the fencing that's put around the tennis courts and to prevent the development from obscuring those tennis court fences at any time in the future. Again, to protect view lines from Members Drive and from the proposed roads around the new facility. I've asked for changes to the landscaping to reduce the scale and size of landscaping along Doncaster Road and around the heritage tree, to try and ensure that view lines to this historic homestead are protected, both now and in the future. I've asked for the oak tree not to be isolated from public view and from access, and to ensure that public access from Doncaster Road is preserved in perpetuity. The plan already includes public access to this to this building at the car park point at the front of the building, but I'm asking to ensure that that access is maintained so that links to the side streets for local residents are preserved. I've also asked that a 173 agreement be entered into in respect of this development to ensure that the changes I've just gone through are in fact incorporated into the development permit and made a permanent feature of the site, so that those conditions within the 173 agreement are able to be enforced by council in respect of any future development. In the end, councillors, I believe this is a balanced outcome. The conservation and preservation of heritage buildings is a very difficult challenge, especially when a heritage building is so transformed as this particular building is today. The site is transformed. The golf course is gone. It's now a housing estate. It was private land bought by a private developer and turned into housing. So the views of the golf course are missing. 20% of the site was preserved for open space through the good work of the council officers. in negotiating with the developer of that particular golf course. That developer sold this block of land and the current owner has an entitlement to develop it and to try and deliver upon the heritage overlay which exists. And in attempting to deliver that upon that heritage overlay, they are proposing to restore the 19th century, I believe, heritage building, and to restore it quite substantially, to expend significant amounts of money to restore the facades, to restore the verandas, to actually to bring to life again aspects of the building which are gone today, ladies and gentlemen. They're not there. They're going to be replaced and recovered and re-delivered into this building. You're not talking about a veranda that's sitting there buried behind a bit of concrete or anything. These guys are actually going to have to recreate aspects of this to recover this heritage building. It is a substantial undertaking and they are proposing to integrate that restored heritage building with the new complex. And I think that is a balanced and reasonable outcome. We're not getting an apartment tower, we're not getting residential accommodation, we're not getting townhouses, we're getting a health and fitness club, outdoor swimming pool, indoor swimming pool, tennis courts. Yes, it will be a private members club, so is the golf course. And it will bring back a sporting precinct into this community for people who choose to participate in it. And I think that is a reasonable and balanced outcome. I think the proposal and the amendments that I have suggested in my alternate motion are a way of addressing some of the concerns which have been raised by others about this proposal. And I ask my fellow councillors to support the alternate motion.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Councillor Galboy.
Just one point. Councillor McLeish has done a really good job, I think, with this amendment. I'd just like to point out 38.6, the pedestrian path and gateway access from Doncaster Road is to remain open to the public. I think that that one is going to be very good for all the users, whether they live in Tullamore, whether they use the gym, or it's just a good way for the public to sort of connect with the heritage building and what's going on. And I think that's especially a good point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Galboy. Any speakers against?
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Chen.
I appreciate Councillor McLeish's great effort to introduce the alternative motion, but I have some questions which I need some clarification from the officers, if I may.
Yes.
Firstly, Councillor McLeish introduced Section 173 agreement. Can I ask the officer whether the agreement can be amended or removed in the future? And or should I just go through one by one?
Perhaps just, we'll get an answer on that one. Is that all right? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is possible to amend or to remove a 173 agreement in the future, but it would have to go through a separate process and council would have to make a decision.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chen.
My second question is, we all know that, as I mentioned before, the Members Drive Heritage Boulevard is relatively narrow. And because of the residential just across the street, may I ask the officer's opinion that whether the outdoor activities and facilities will impact the future residential residents' amenity, or perhaps we will receive ongoing complaint about this too noisy and this, or the noise and the activities around?
Thank you. Mr.
Mayor, can I just get clarification from Councillor Chen? Across the street, which street are we referring to?
Members Drive, especially.
Yeah, it's on the north side. Thank you. Angelo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, possibly, but we do require them to. Is there a condition requiring?
It's behind you. It's behind you.
Is there a condition requiring them parking construction?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just clarifying. If you go to page, condition number 32 onwards, there are conditions there that try to control the use to minimise the impact on future residents. So there's no guarantee we won't get complaints in the future, as been suggested, but we have tried to address that aspect.
Councillor Chen, one more?
One more. And I noticed that on page 46, point B, and Councillor McLeish introduced review heritage overlay 43. And I'm not quite sure that it's reviewing the overlay now or after the completion of the work, and it's before and after, and I'm not sure that what it refers to. And also, either before or after, I would like to know the impact of the current overlay, because this is the initial proposal by the applicant's so-called heritage heritage expert that reduced the heritage to those little dot points. And thank you for our heritage expert that was, well, reduced but much bigger. So I just wonder whether the impact will reduce the size further. Yeah, thank you.
So I think it's for clarification. So it's clarification around 40. The B part.
The last point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Councillor McLeish, would you like to clarify your intention, or do I have an officer to advise whether it is clear the intention? Yep. Thank you.
The intent of this clause is to ensure that the heritage overlay remains on the building and on the site, and to ensure that the outcomes from the development, that the site remains protected under the heritage overlay after the development is completed.
After the development is completed. And so I would like to know the impact of the heritage overlay. And that is very likely that there will be reduced.
I'm going to have to say something.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, some of the questions are now being asked, sort of seeking things into the future that we may or may not know what's happening. From my reading of the review, that review would answer some of those questions that you're posing now in the future, but officers have been unable to answer them now without undertaking that review.
Thank you.
Are there any other speakers against a question from Councillor Goff? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to know the height difference between the tennis courts, the closest point to the building, and the tennis court themselves. The level of the level of the tennis court and the level of the ground outside the building. Is there a step up or down, or is it particularly level?
Were there some views?
Page 188.
I don't have that detail in front of me, Steve. The drawing before is at a very scale that I can't make that assessment for you tonight.
Your point being...
My point, Mr. Mayor, is I'd like to move an amendment to, at the moment, to go into these negotiations with if we're pulling this forward, to take those two tennis courts that are very, very close to the heritage building out of the plan and go into more negotiation over that, because we're already at VCAT. This is to say we're producing a motion now, not to say yes or no, but to say what we might have said before we went to negotiation. We're already in negotiation at VCAT. So being in negotiation at VCAT, we can take those two particular tennis courts off, and in that particular case, I think then we could confidently go to VCAT and keep on the negotiations, because I believe that those tennis courts are much too close to the heritage building. Okay.
Could you word the proposed amendment?
Just that.
And I'll ask Councillor McLeish.
To remove the tennis courts. Which ones are they? They're not numbered, so the two closest to the heritage building. The heritage building goes right onto it. It's only a metre or so away. So, it's very, very close. So those courts go up to there. I think there is a difference in height.
No, it looks level.
No, it's not level.
It's below, they step down to them.
So anyway,
Okay, councillor McLeish, are you prepared to take that amendment on?
No, Mr.
No? Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Sorry? Hang on. Okay, can I just pause and get clarification?
no, that's right. Does anyone want a second? They won't get one, that's all right.
Is there a seconder for the amendment?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak to refuse, as they haven't spoken against it or...
No, sorry, we are dealing with the amendment currently. And once we've dealt with the amendment, we'll have a motion, one way or the other, and then you can talk to the motion. Sorry, is that a seconder for the amendment?
Amendment to the motion.
Thank you. I'll put the amendment to the floor. Those in favour? Those against? That's not passed. So we are now back on the alternate motion. Councillor Haynes, alternate.
I'd like to speak against it.
No, she was asking a question. So we're on
Wasn't a question.
that was questions,
And then I was,
and the last speaker was
now it's speaker
was
against.
for,
And
and councillor Haynes, you'd like to speak against. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to speak against this motion. It is clear around this table and around the community that the planning permit as it stands as an application is not suitable for the community for many reasons, and also around this table. But even with my fellow councillor McLeish, who has made a great effort to try and fit within the needs and desires of the permit application, and also within the developer's desires, I actually believe that we still need to not vote for this amended application to be approved. It is in VCAT as we speak, and I think it is a great opportunity for us to vote to refuse this application with a number of things that we can take forward to the officers to be able to act on our behalf to get a much better outcome than this amended motion. Councillors, if we do say yes to this amended motion, we don't get to be able to put some things forward to change it. But if we are seen to have not made a decision, which has already gone to VCAT anyway, then we can prepare the officers and prepare to try and get a better outcome for everybody, especially the community, especially the heritage overlay. And I'd also like to speak against it for another reason. Was past councils are the ones that didn't ensure that the previous owner considered the heritage overlay. The reason that this thing has buildings on it, that added additions to it that it shouldn't be, the previous owner wasn't made to keep within that heritage overlay. We as a council have the ability to ensure that that happens from now on, with not only that building, but many others that have a heritage overlays on it that need to be ensured that they're looked after as far as the overlays goes. This is a great opportunity to be able to get a good outcome for the community, for this wonderful old heritage Tullamore building that already the state government has had in front of it many times. So I'm certain that at VCAT we will do a better job than approving this, though it is better than the original motion to issue a permit. I ask that we still vote to refuse this and take ourselves forward in a more positive manner to be able to get a better outcome at VCAT.
Thank you, councillor Haynes. Are there any more speakers for? Councillor McLeish, would you like a right of reply? 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I think in the end we have before us a fairly simple decision. This particular location has suffered from neglect, from being surrounded by car parks and a construction zone for several years, but prior to that it's been the car park of a golf course and a heritage building surrounded by many ad hoc additions over many years. The heritage nature of the building and the views of the heritage building have been lost. We have before us a proposal that is a balanced and reasonable proposal that will see that heritage building restored and see this particular precinct once again become a sporting precinct which the community can join in and participate should they so choose. I'm not keen to see further development. Over the last month since the council meeting, I've spent a considerable amount of time looking at the issues, talking with officers about the issues that concern me, asking for some changes to the recommendation to try and address some of the concerns raised by the very councillors who are asking us to vote against this. Concerns about non-transparent fencing, concerns about lack of public access, concerns about visibility of the heritage building from Doncaster Road, and I have attempted through this alternate motion to address many of those concerns. It is not a perfect solution. This is a very complex site, but it will see the site restored, rebuilt and reimagined, and it will link to a new building, and that new building will also become an active part of this proposed facility. We need to have a considered decision for officers to go and discuss this particular application in VCAT. That's why we need this particular proposal. We didn't get that at the last council meeting. I'd like us to make a decision this evening that gives officers clear guidance to go to VCAT and represent the views of the council on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. I'll put that in motion.
Before you do, Mr Mayor, can I ask a question?
Thank you,
A
Councillor.
procedural question.
Oh, I have to summarise it.
A procedural question.
Procedural question. I'm wondering of the implications if this motion is lost. What happens to this matter, given that last time we did not accept the recommendations?
I believe that we will try and come up with another motion at that point until there has been a motion that is carried in regard to this matter.
Question on that procedural matter then. If at the situation it's at VCAT, if it's at VCAT, it's at VCAT now. So things will be discussed at VCAT with regard to this application. If we don't reach a decision on this, it's still going to be at VCAT. Even if we do reach a decision on this, it's still going to be at VCAT. So quite honestly, it's at VCAT being sorted out by council at VCAT.
Okay. Thank you. So I will now put that motion. Those in favour of alternate motion number 1, I believe. Thank you. 4. Those against? And carried. Thank you. Item 10, City Planning. Item 10.1, Manningham Planning Scheme Amendments C117, consideration of submissions and request for a panel hearing. Do I have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor McLeish.
Mr Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Galbally, Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, Amendment C117 specifically addresses land in the Green Wedge in our city. It seeks to do essentially two things. It seeks to, initially what we're doing here tonight, councillors, is we are partway through a planning amendment process, a planning scheme amendment process. We have had a decision by council to draft an amendment. We've had community consultation about that draft amendment. We are now receiving back in the agenda tonight the results of that community consultation. We're considering what we think of that community consultation, and we're making a decision as to whether we will send this particular matter to a planning panel, which is the next step in the scheme process. scheme amendment process. We can decide to abandon this tonight, or we can decide to send it off to a planning scheme panel and have the panel consider the report and consider that report in quite some detail. They would then come back to council with a final recommendation for us to then consider. So what I'm asking you, councillors, tonight is to send this off to a panel. That's what we're here to do. We don't have to accept it into the planning scheme tonight. That's not the point of our decision. The point of our decision, are we sending this to a panel or not? I'm suggesting, councillors, that we should send this to a panel. Having read all the community consultation that has gone on, I'm convinced that this is the right move for our council. We're taking Amendment C117 forward. It addresses outbuildings in the Green Wedge. It seeks to try, in this aspect of the amendment, to try and constrain the construction and location and scale of outbuildings in Green Wedge properties. We have ongoing properties in our municipality, in the Green Wedge, to do with the size, the dominance, the use, the access, the vegetation removal, the earthworks, all associated with building outbuildings in the Green Wedge. We're seeing too many examples of monstrous sheds being built any old place on Green Wedge land. It's harming neighbours and it's harming the views and enjoyment of Green Wedge land and the amenity that the community enjoys in this part of our municipality, and it's important that that is constrained by requiring people who seek to build these outbuildings to get a permit beyond a particular size on a block of land. I think that's a reasonable expectation to try and constrain and balance proposals for building outbuildings in the Green Wedge against the need of the owner of the land. The second part of the proposal seeks to introduce into the planning scheme some criteria by which council can consider non-permitted, non-residential uses. Well, and that sounds very convoluted, but the basic problem you have with the planning scheme is you have permitted uses and you have rules to determine applications for that. A permitted use, here are the rules to decide a permitted use permit. But councillors, anyone can come to this council and ask for, I want to build a non-permitted use on that land. Someone could apply for a power station on this site if they choose to. You're perfectly entitled to under the planning scheme. You'll never get it through. It'd be a crazy thing to do, but you can do that. That's the extreme. But as you go along that path and get closer to permitted uses, you can apply for things. You can apply for a helipad in the Green Wedge. You might get it. The challenge for a council is, if it's a non-permitted use, how do you decide if it should or should not be approved or considered? Our planning scheme has no rules about non-permitted uses. No criteria by which a decision should be contemplated. This is an attempt to introduce those criteria, not to let non-permitted uses happen, but to give a framework for saying, should we contemplate this or not, to make sure that the values and controls that we like in the Green Wedge are part of any attempt to make a decision for a non-permitted use. That's really important because there is significant pressure coming onto the Green Wedge for people to develop it. And that pressure is going to go through the roof in the next 30 years, councillors. If you think there's pressure today, just wait 20 years when there are another 2.5 million people in this city. That's when the pressure's really going to be on. We need controls in this planning scheme that guide conservation and protection of the Green Wedge, so when non-permitted uses are proposed by developers, those uses are considered correctly applying the values of the Green Wedge. So I ask you to support this, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Councillor Galbally?
Nothing to add.
Are there any speakers against the motion? There being no further speakers, I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Item 10.2, Amendment C104, Westfield Doncaster Development Plan request to seek extension of time to consider the amendment. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goff? Do I have a, sorry.
Mr Mayor, I move that the motion as on the table is adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Thank you. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I suppose this is something that's very important to people who live around this particular area as far as Westfield Doncaster is concerned. A few years ago we actually put an amendment up to seek to sort of look at a big overall developmental area within Westfield, and we exhibited that. But then a bit later on they did purchase extra land around Westfield, and they wish that land that is next to it along Westfield Drive be incorporated into their envelope, and as such it went out for another lot of amendment. It's coming up to time, I think, to get onto it all, and no one's really ready for it yet, so we really need to write to the Minister and seek an extension so that that can be looked at as a whole in that second part where they've got the Westfield Drive property. So I consider that we should move.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Haynes.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I like extensions on planning applications, so I support that.
Not a planning... Oh, yes.
Well, it is.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion? There being no further speakers, I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Item 10.3, Heritage Restoration Fund, changes to the policy and guidelines. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Piccinini.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Piccinini.
Mr Mayor, the Manningham Heritage Restoration Fund for both buildings and significant trees and gardens has operated successfully for many years. Recently, the Heritage Advisory Committee undertook a review of the policy and guidelines for these two funds, and the papers recommend some minor changes. The changes focus on the provision of quotes, making them mandatory, ensuring that there is greater transparency and clarity in applications. Also, justification for proposing a higher quote. If the applicant, for instance, was to give 3 quotes and suggest the higher quote, they must justify why they wish the higher quote to be honoured. And as a requirement that the applicant ensures that contractors have a clear understanding that the restoration work must as closely as possible match the original work. Once these changes have passed, they will be in time for the applications to open in July this year.
Thank you, Councillor Piccinini. Councillor Kleinert. Are there any speakers against the motion? I will put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Thank you. Item 11, Assets and Engineering 11.1, North East Link Issues and Opportunities. Do I have a mover for a motion? Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
Mr Mayor, I move that the councillor's alternate motion be adopted.
Thank
Sorry?
Isn't there an addition?
Plus an addition. Sorry?
Okay. Would you mind informing us of that?
So, yes, I'm
Addition?
terribly sorry.
Right.
It's getting late in the day for me. My head went elsewhere. Sorry about that. Councillors, the alternate motion also adds a D aspect, and it says that council requests for all lanes of the Eastern Freeway to remain toll-free along its entire length.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Chen. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this is just continuing our discussions with the North East Link. Obviously, we didn't want it to be where it's at, but we're happy to be at the table with the North East Link. One of the additions to the alternate motion is to strengthen our barriers, our sound barriers along the eastern, on our side of the eastern. If anyone travels down the eastern or even walks along or rides their bike at the moment, on the other side there is glass sound barriers that also curve in, that when you're on the other side of the freeway as a pedestrian or in any of those homes, the sound barrier is extremely good. Yet within the side of the Manningham I must say, it is definitely been an issue since it was first built, and now we're going to have so many more trucks, and we're going to have 3 times more of everything along that. The Coonung Creek will probably become a Coonung Drain, but hopefully the inclusion of our strengthening of the state-of-the-art and best practice of sound barriers along the freeway, along Manningham, and the discussions that we're hoping to have with Neela to help lessen the impact on the properties, which is there's a few thousand residents that are abutting that freeway. So that's one of the additions to this motion, and to request for all lanes of the Eastern Freeway to remain toll-free along its entire length. We haven't been told one way or the other, but I ask that we add that as well, so that way we can strengthen our support for our residents and the people that are already using it.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Councillor Chen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can't agree more with the 2 additions. One is strengthening the sound barrier, and the other one is free toll. And also, I just wish to note that Council have prepared at least 5 recommendations about the public transportation, which I wish to just reinforce that is really, really important. And those recommendations cover the Doncaster busway, bus network enhancements, Doncaster Park and Ride, and Doncaster Rail. And it demonstrates Council's strong advocacy work for better public transport for our Manningham residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Any speakers against? I will put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Item 11.2, recreational land charges in lieu of rates 2018-19. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goff?
I move as on the paper, Mr. Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Goff?
Oh, just quickly, Mr. Mayor, this is, I suppose, an important thing. There is a little bit of a difference. It's obvious that if you have clubs on our land and they're group clubs, like all the tennis clubs, and they're barred off from normal access 24/7, members only sort of thing, then we can actually put rates on them. But we choose not to. And so I think if you look at the report, you see a whole lot of nils, except 2 clubs, which are private clubs. We used to have 3. And actually the 3rd one used to be the golf club down here where we were building at Tullamore. So that was the 3rd one that we had. But here we've got 2 clubs that we will be putting a charge onto in lieu of rates. So they're not rateable, but they do pay these charges.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Kleinert? Any speakers against? I'll put that motion, those for, and carried. Item 11.3, general valuation for the 2018 return. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Chen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Goff, Councillor Chen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, all Victorian councils are required to reevaluate their rateable and non-rateable livable land biannually. And the general valuation has now been completed, and because of the impact of the continuous strong property market, there is an increase of 23.5% in the capital improved value. And this information will be included via brochure insert in 2018-19 valuation and raise notice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Goff?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion, those for. Thank you, and carried. Item 12, community programs. 12.1, draft inclusive Manningham Strategy 2018 to 21 and Action Plan 2018 to 2019. Do I have a mover? Councillor Zafiropoulos.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Chen. Councillor Zafiropoulos.
We have talked about this city's diversity on several occasions. It's a diversity which makes us quite quite unique in the state of Victoria, perhaps the state of Australia. Some 40% of our people have been born overseas. Some 87% of those were born in a country where English is not the primary language. So that means some 35% of our residents have got a non-English speaking background. We also have diversity in terms of disability. We have some 11,000 people caring for people with disabilities in our city, and about 1/3 of those carers have got a disability themselves. We also have a number of other areas of diversity in relation to faith. We've got some 52% Christians, we've got 9% other faiths, and interestingly, an increasing percentage of people without a faith, some 30%. So that diversity requires an approach that would enable us to provide our services, programs, develop our policies in a way that reflects the needs, concerns and aspirations of the people that have got diverse interests and values and so on. So this draft strategy, the Inclusive Manningham strategy for the next 3 years, will do that. It'll help Council to deliver in its Healthy City strategy commitment that we've made. It'll enable us to comply with Section 38 of the Victorian Disability Act, which requires us to reduce barriers to persons with a disability in accessing goods, services and facilities, in increasing employment opportunities, promoting inclusion and participation, and changing attitudes and practices that discriminate against people with disability. So basically this strategy replaces the earlier 2014-2017 strategy of the Access and Equity and Diversity strategy. And it's a strategy that also enable the Council to comply with both federal and state legislation. And there are some 9 legislative requirements at the state level and some 7 requirements at the federal level. So it's very serious business. As Council, we need to comply with the laws of the country, the other 2 levels of government. But apart from this, there are distinct benefits in the Council adopting a strategy that would enable us to provide our services in a way that creates harmony and enable us to deliver our services in a social justice theme, if you like. So on that basis, I recommend that we endorse this strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Zafiropoulos. Councillor Chen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Zafiropoulos has sounded over, but I just want to add that there are 4 priority areas in the strategy, and that they are protect and promote human rights, enhance workplace culture and leadership, provide equitable opportunities for social and economic inclusion, value diversity and being a welcoming community. So if both documents are endorsed, they will go to public exhibition for 4 weeks.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Thank you. Item 12.2, Community Grant Program 2018. Do I have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Zafiropoulos.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Zafiropoulos.
Like all councils, Manningham City Council has got a community grants program, which basically provides some funding to the not-for-profit sector in our community for projects which coincide with the strategic direction that we set out for the council. Our grants program is $1.7 million worth, but 1.35 of that has already been committed through partnerships programs that we've got back in 2015-16 for up to 4 years. So that leaves about $350,000 to be allocated in 3 categories. One is the community development category, which carries about $120,000 in the budget. The arts and culture category, which carries $110,000, and that leaves around about $120,000 for the small grants category. Now, we advertised and we got some 42 applications totaling $412,617. Now, the applications were much larger than the budget we've allocated, so we were in a position to allocate 20 grants to 28 applications, totaling some $210,000 in the community development and arts and culture category. The other category will come up, I understand, in February, and where is it, somewhere? It'll come up twice during this year and next year in February. Yep. So that's basically what it is. It's a good way of assisting not-for-profit organisations deliver much more. For instance, the $210,000 that we're granting will contribute to an overall project investment of more than $1 million. So it's a good thing what we're doing here, so I recommend that we approve it.
Thank you, Councillor Zafiropoulos. Councillor Kleinert. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those for. And carried. Item 12.3, Healthy City Action Plan Progress Report 2017-2018. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'm sorry.
Another word. Don't put your hands up.
I'll take Councillor McLeish. Thank you.
Fair enough.
Councillor Kleinert.
Yes. This is another statutory requirement under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act of 2008. This is a progress report, and it's a really good report of 158 actions. At least 90% are on target. 88 of them are between 75 and 90%, which is great. The strategic actions, the priorities include inclusive and harmonious communities, healthy and well, safe and resilient, and connected and vibrant. And I think council officers should be congratulated on that work that they're doing. There is a lot of work that's being done. And if you look at the report, you'll see just how vast it is that, and how important the Healthy City Strategy is and how it feeds into so much of what we do in the local government space. So again, it's a progress report. I think we're doing well, and I'm really proud to stand up and congratulate our council on what we're doing in that space. And again, we were one of the first, I think we were the first council to actually adopt this policy, because as a requirement of a council that we endorse a healthy city strategy, of which we did that very early on in the beginning of our term. So, wonderful outcome, and it should be supported.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Councillor McLeish.
Nothing to add, Mr Mayor.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.4, Arts Advisory Committee, consideration of nominations for community representatives. Do I have a mover? Councillor Piccinini.
Mr Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted with the following nominees appointed. Michael Cross, Sophie...
Sorry,
Simon Cross, Sophie Bedesi, I was looking at the next, Demi Nicolaides, Rose Lang, Mardi Nowak and Bernadette Alibrando.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Garbally. Councillor Piccinini.
Mr Mayor, the Arts Advisory Committee met on the 10th of April this year to consider the applications for membership to the committee and make recommendations regarding the preferred candidates to fill the 5 vacant positions. There are 5 vacant positions because Bernadette Alibrando is a representative of the Heidi Gallery, and she has, there'll always be a representative for the Heidi Gallery on our committee as it's incorporated in the terms of reference. All the nominations were of a very high standard, and the panel had to consider a balance of skills, experience and perspectives in selecting the members, and we think we got the balance right. We have some educators, some senior educators, some academics and some people working in the field, in particular in the area of film. So I seek that Council support these nominations.
Thank you, Councillor Piccinini. Councillor Garbally.
Nothing to add.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Item 12.5, Access and Equity Advisory Committee Membership 2018 to 2021. Do I have a mover?
Yeah.
Councillor Zafiropoulos.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
With the 16.
Could you just read out the whole? No, thank you.
That the recommendation be adopted with the 16 nominees recommended by the selection panel appointed to the committee.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Councillor Zafiropoulos.
Like other committees of this council, the Access and Equity Committee has served its term, and it was time for us to seek new nominations. The committee consisting of the Mayor, Councillor Andrew Conlon, myself as Chair of the current committee, and the former Chair of the committee, Councillor Sophie Galbally. I always think of Galbalopoulos, but Galbally sounds like it. So the committee met. We looked at the 18 nominations. We had to fill in 16 positions. I'm not going to go, unlike the Arts Committee, there are quite a number of names, 16 names, so the names as printed in the papers. Interestingly, given that this committee's sort of raison d'etre is to address diversity, its composition is quite diverse, we've got 10 nominees, 1 person with a disability, 8 nominees who serve in community organisations, 2 are under 30 years of age, 2 are over 65 years of age, 9 are new nominees, and 6 are from a previous committee. So what a fantastic balance. But interestingly, going along with why this council values gender, we have, interestingly, out of the 16 positions we're filling, 15 positions are females.
Oh dear.
So just shows you there might be a correlation between gender and inclusion. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's an area that we might research. So I strongly recommend that this committee be endorsed by council as a proper committee to address our issues for the next 3 years.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to congratulate all the members that have been appointed. I had not actually looked at the gender equity issue, but I'm certain that the females that will be representing, as a female myself, that they will do it equally and also represent the men in our community well.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Any speakers against? Any questions?
Can I make one point? Just one correction. There's
There are
actually
3 men.
two. Where's the third one?
There are 15 females and 3 males
Okay.
in the committee of 18.
Yep.
Oh, what more do you?
Those 2.
No, I'm happy.
Thank you. Clarified. I'll put that motion and carried.
It's getting late.
Item 13, shared services. 13.1, 2018-19 annual budget incorporating the strategic resource plan 2018 to 2022. Adoption and declaration of rates and charges. Do I have a mover for that motion? Councillor McLeish.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goff. Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this is the final step in our budget process. We've considered it, we've had it out for community consultation, we've had the consultation process, we've had some feedback, and what we have now before us is the final budget, having considered that feedback. The budget is very much unchanged. There is a couple of technical changes to the numbers, but fundamentally after the consultation we really haven't changed the budget. It's going forward as it was. It's a $141 million revenue income budget, and it's going to serve our city very well. I'm very pleased with the outcome in the budget. I think we have worked together very effectively with the council organisation. They have worked incredibly hard to deliver us a budget in trying circumstances in a rate capping environment. Our rates are capped at 2.25%, but our costs go up faster than that. We have a capital works budget of $35.6 million, and the costs of construction in Victoria are the highest costs of construction in this country. The rate of construction cost increase is remarkable. It far outstrips the 2.25%, and that means our organisation has to be cost effective in what it does, it has to manage costs well, and it has to try and wring every single capability they can out of the dollars that we get. We're still putting $35.6 million into capital works, and within that there is only $1.157 million in capital grants, councillors. There's something wrong with the budget for a council when you only get $1.157 million in capital grants. And that's not, I'm making no comment on our organisation here whatsoever. I think they do a remarkable job in this space. It's a reflection on the fact that we are a blue ribbon Liberal municipality and we do not get money from government. The municipalities around us that are marginal seats get the grants. This municipality doesn't. We have to do all the heavy lifting out of our own wallets as a community. That's very difficult, but we do a very good job of it in my view. We have, within the budget, some challenges. We have rate increase. We've been asked by various groups to provide exemptions from certain aspects of rates. I'm not a supporter of those exemptions. We've been asked about retirement villages. I don't support giving exemptions on discounts on rates to retirement villages. We have 24,000 people in this city who are aged over 65. 20% of our population are aged over 65, councillors. We can't be looking at a special arrangement for a limited group of aged residents, because what about the rest? What about the rest who are living on age pension and on fixed income? We have to be equitable in our rates. It is as simple as that. We have a low income rebate in our council policy and in this budget. It's $62.70 for low income people. They can apply to get that. It comes off the top of their rates, and I think that's an equitable way to do it. We benefit anyone who is on a low income in our city through that rebate. It doesn't matter whether those low income people are aged or not, whether they're unemployed or not, whether they're under rent stress. That's the model we have, an equitable distribution of low income rebate. And I'm suggesting, councillors, that that's the way we should go forward. We have a waste increase in our budget. We all know the details that those cost increases are outside of our control. But after all of that cost increase and all of those challenges with rates charges and the fact that they're going up a fair bit, the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, our waste charge is still lower than it was 6 years ago. For $5 a week, a truck comes to your house, empties 2 bins, 2 trucks come to your house, empties 2 bins, take the rubbish away and dispose of it for $5 a week. A cup of coffee, it's $5 a week for a cost of a cup of coffee. 2 trucks come to your house, empty your rubbish bins, take it all away and dispose of it. And they do that 52 weeks of the year, ladies and gentlemen. So I think our waste charges at $254 odd for your average household is still very good value for our community, despite the increases that are occurring because of recycling charges. I think we have a well-constructed budget. We have all contributed to that. I congratulate all of you for the contributions you've made, and especially I congratulate the organisation for the sterling effort that they've done in delivering upon our objectives, in cutting costs and improving services to our community, and additions like $1.5 million extra in drains and $1.5 million extra in footpaths each and every year in the next 3 years. It's a great outcome for our community. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I must admit most of the things, as Paul was speaking, have been crossed off my list, so I'm going to speak very short indeed. In fact, I'd like to thank the office and everybody here for all the work getting into our budget. It is a long process. It's deciding on winners and losers. It's deciding on who we're going to spend money on and who we aren't, and the allocation of those funds. And here tonight, we're not just looking at that, we're looking at our 4-year resource plans, strategic resource plans for the future as well, which is being adopted here. But indeed, we are in a time of rate capping, and I think it's wonderful if we can look at the parameters in which we measure a council and its viability. And I think it's pages 501 to 504, and you'll see a number of graphs along there looking at really it just explains council's position its financial position across the board there, which is really important, and also the budget principles that we go to. And indeed, I think we've also adopted a principle in this budget not to go into debt or any further debt in this budget as a parameter for the future. And I do believe that it's one of the principles of our council here that we said to the people that we're not going to create another debt for the future. We'd like to be living within our own means for the 4 years that we go and work forward. And indeed, the last couple of years we did borrow money for lighting and putting in the street lighting, that LED lighting, and that has got a great payoff of saving for the whole community into the future. And indeed, it will be paid off within this time frame. So thank you for everyone there. And may I say, this probably won't go down very well with many people, but I believe, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is this the cheapest rate in the dollar we've ever had in Manningham? And I think the answer to that is yes. We are paying 0.0014678 cents per dollar of value. And I wish other taxes that the state government had were that low on what they're charging us. And indeed, we deliver great services throughout our community, 365 days a year, and that goes to fund that. I suppose with 88, look, I will just press on one thing. For a council this size to actually continually push at 30%, around $35 million in capital works programs in each year is marvellous, but there is a danger of that not being able to continue if rate capping continues on. Something's got to give there at that particular stages. We're in a very fortunate position. There are a lot of councils that actually really don't do very much in capital works, and I measure a council on how much it spends on capital works. So, councillors, I think we need to all vote for this great budget and put it out to the community. Not put it out, but get the money.
Commit it, Jeff.
Commit it to the community.
Done and dusted. It's locked and loaded. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any speakers against the motion? I'll put that motion. Those for? And carried. Thank you.
Division.
Okay, let's do a division. Those in favour, please stand. Or indicate your support. We have Councillor Kleinert, Councillor Zafiropoulos, Councillor Chen, Councillor Goff, Councillor Haynes, Councillor McLeish, Councillor Piccinini, Councillor Galbally, and Councillor Conlon. In favour?
Jeff, it's the first time. There's been none.
Item 13.2. Adoption of 10-year financial plan 2018-19 to 27-28. Do I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor McLeish.
Mr Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Do I have a seconder?
Oh, right.
Yes. Councillor Cowley. Excuse me. Okay. Councillor McLeish.
Nothing to say, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cowley.
Nothing to add.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 13.3 Procurement Policy 2018 Update. Do I have a mover? Councillor Janine.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Piccinini.
Mr Mayor, we've been asked to endorse the annual review of the procurement policy, which is good governance practice. And the key change to the procurement policy for this year is a small increase in the authority limit for certain purchasing officers to better align with council quotation requirements. So there's just, the key change is to increase the authority limit for purchasing officers from 1,000 to 2,000 and coordinators from 10,000 to 15,000.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Any speakers against? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Carried. Item 14, Chief Executive Officer 14.1. Results of the Local Government Community Satisfaction Survey 2018. Do I have a mover?
Move as on the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Councillor Goff?
Not to take up too much time, but it is quite a good report card here for Manningham. Indeed, these particular local government surveys go out across, and it probably compares councils across the board throughout Victoria. One of the interesting things is all councils aren't the same. Some councils do things differently or do different measures than others, but in all, it sort of gives a pretty good indication of a well-performing council, and Manningham really has performed within the limits of what is the average there across the board, and in fact getting close to exceeding it in a number onto the point. So it does give us things to look at. It's not that we're doing anything right or better or bad, it just gives us a point of location onto areas that we might need to look at, and we have had some improvements in public consultation. There's been a couple of areas where we've dropped back a bit, but they're so minor in the survey in a statistical sense that it's just one number, the one or two numbers different out of 100. So it's all about the same. So congratulations on Manningham here for the results that they've got.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Haynes?
Nothing to add.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Carried. Item 14.2, Audit and Risk Committee Charter Review. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Councillor Kleinert.
This is just really mandatory under the Local Government Act that we have a audit committee that basically it oversees and advises on its financial and performance reporting. This is just really, it's a notable change arising from the review. It's an update of the committee's name to now Audit and Risk. It's the charter that makes consistency on our council plan or our council plan goal for a well-governed council working towards delivering sound governance and leadership in transparency, accountability and decision-making. I'm one of the lucky ones to sit on it, and it's quite an experience for riveting stuff, but it's an important role that it plays. A lot of reading, a lot of understanding, but yeah, it really does play a very important part of the process of our role in local government. So minor change, but a good one, and looking forward to all endorsing that.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Haynes.
Nothing further to add except to say that I agree with names and words and titles that other people understand, not just acronyms and things that say audit and they don't even know what it means. So I'm glad we've added that word, and that because that work that is done through that committee does assess risk in so many areas of council throughout the organisation and also the community. So I'm grateful that that's been added.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 14.3, revised councillor allowance and support policy. I have a mover for that, mate.
Moved as on the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McLeish. Councillor Goff?
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor McLeish. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Item 14.4, appointment of authorised officer, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover? Councillor Galbally. Seconder? Sorry, before we have a seconder, Councillor Galbally, would you like to? Thank you. My apologies.
That's okay. I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted with the inclusion of an additional instrument of appointment and authorisation under the Planning and Environment Act for Harriet Clegg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Piccinini. Thank you. Councillor Galbally.
Nothing to add?
Sorry, Councillor Piccinini.
Nothing to add.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Item 14.5, record of assembly of councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted. Thank you.
Seconder. Councillor Kleinert. Thank you. Councillor Chen.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kleinert. Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Sorry, could I just... Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Item 14.6, documents for sealing. I have a mover. Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
I move that a recommendation be adopted with the addition of the following document: that the lease, council and Shrams Sports Club Incorporated, part Shrams Reserved, 2 to 50 JJ Tully Drive, Doncaster, be added.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McLeish. Councillor Haynes.
Nothing to add.
Councillor McLeish.
No, Mr Mayor.
Any speakers against? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? And carried. Thank you. Item 15, urgent business. There are no urgent business items. Item 16, councillors' question time. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Chen, thank you.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor, and that's in regards to youth employment. As we know, that council is the largest employer in our municipality, and young people are among our community's most valuable resources. And I just wonder, have we or could we consider offer different entry-level opportunities for young people to gain professional or and organizational experiences, such as internship or graduate programs? Thank you.
I assume we'll take that on notice, but we'll take that, the CEO will take that on notice and we'll consider it at an SPS. Any other questions from councillors? Thank you. Item 17, confidential reports. There are no confidential reports, and there being no further items, I will now close the meeting. Thank you very much.